So hi, here I am with Josh, aka Solipsistnation or Soli, who has visited Berlin all the way from California.
California, yeah.
Yeah, you came all the way.
Yeah.
Is that your first time?
I've been to Germany, but not since the 80s, which was a real different experience.
Yeah, I think so.
And but no, we'd been planning a vacation, and this year it lined up with Superbooth. So I came out to meet my AE Modular friends, and for the first time, drop in and say hi, and maybe play some music and talk about stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, I'm really excited to have Josh in person.
Yeah.
He's been a very much a regular of the monthly Zoom meetings. So
Yeah.
we talk every month, and we of course chat on Discord and in the forum and stuff. But seeing people in person is an important experience.
Yeah, it's really nice to actually meet you all in person. I've been looking forward to this for months, and it's been great so far.
How you make music and how do you incorporate AE Modular into your music?
So I started with AE Modular with a friend's secondhand rig a couple of years ago. Found the community, and it was a great group of people, so I hung around. What I discovered is that basically the low cost of modular made it much more accessible to me. I wasn't willing to drop $400 on a single oscillator for a Eurorack when I could buy an entire setup for the same amount and be much more flexible and able to do more with the same amount of, spending the same amount of money, honestly, and in less space. I was living in a very small place, so I could set up my AE stuff, record with a little bit, and then put it away again and eat dinner on the same table. At this point, I have more space. The first thing I tend to do when I have an afternoon to make music is turn on the AE rig and pretty much start experimenting. I know there are people in our group who do complicated pre-planning and spend a lot of time thinking about how stuff is going together. I tend to start patching and see what comes out. I do have some processes. I like to start out with some drones to set the key and then put other things over it. If I'm not careful, I get stuck in acid bass lines forever. So I've rearranged my rig. So I've rearranged my setup to discourage me from doing the same things over and over, because it was very easy to sit down, turn on a drone, turn on some boops, turn some loops off and on and off and call it a song. And that's cool, and that's always fun. But after doing that a few times, it became, felt a little bit stagnant. So one of the biggest things that has changed how I do music lately has been this Pikocore module, which is a faux Cyrillic's adaptation of the Pikocore lo-fi beat mangler. There's a little Raspberry Pi Pico on the back of that, loaded with samples. He envisioned, the original designer envisioned it as a way of coming up with breakbeats. And I did that for a while, and I still have a module loaded with breakbeats, but this one is loaded with guitar loops. The way I ended up with several is that they were being built by please edit. Faux Cyrillic. The way I ended up with multiple Pikocore modules is that they were being built by Faux Cyrillic in Europe. Postage to and from Europe is expensive and time consuming. I asked him if he would mind if I would make some in the US for US people. He didn't mind, so I made a batch of them and sold them to people locally pretty much for cost. I wasn't trying to make money off of it, I just wanted to have them available to people in the US, which meant that I had a bunch to play with for a while. So I set one up with vocal samples and had a nice time with that. I set one up with breakbeats and did breakbeats, and I set this one up with a bunch of royalty-free guitar loops and started making sort of lo-fi, droney, shoegazy stuff with it. And I have several recordings of those on my Soundcloud, and I'll make them available elsewhere for people who can't use Soundcloud as easily. So combining these sort of glitchy lo-fi guitar loops and the more standard synthesis of AE Modular and the more, like, not quite generative beats. I like to set up Topograph, which is a clone of mutable instruments, mutable waves.
Mutable instruments grids.
Yeah, clone of mutable instruments grids in AE format. I like to set that up and let it kind of run and tweak it as I go, line it up with the Pikocore, playing some guitar loops, and build layers on top of that. So I've had a pretty good time doing that, and I have a couple of recordings of those. Lately I've added the COILS, which I've been building in the same way. COILS is a port of the Mutable Instruments plates module. Their macro oscillator, which has a whole bunch of different oscillator models. Again, Fosa did the porting work. I've been building them in the US. Sadly, I may have to stop doing that as it may become prohibitively expensive in the near future. I've been building these. They've cost me about $100 in parts, and maybe an hour of soldering to build 2 or 3 of them. That may triple. They may go from being about $100 to build and sell, and that's cost. I'm not making profit. I want them to be available to people in the US without having to do postage back and forth from Europe. But at $300 a module, I can't do that.
That's crazy.
Nobody's going to buy them, and I won't be able to do that. And I'm pretty unhappy about that because I've enjoyed building them. I've enjoyed talking to the people who have bought them from me, and I think it's been a general, it's been a benefit to the community to have them available in the US. And so when I'm done building the last batch, I won't be able to do that anymore.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, so that's where that is.
Okay, right. So have you brought this kind of guitar loopy patch with you here? Yeah. And what's this cute little case that you've built? So
this is sort of a cheap, I found it at a thrift store actually. This is like a cash box for people who are taking admission to things. I 3D printed a little bit of these little racks. They're just held in with Velcro. Yeah, well, I'm not going to pull them out. They'll come out and be awkward. I have some of I have some Bus Buddy
from Symbolic
buses.
Circuits.
Yeah, Symbolic Circuits, yep. Bus Buddies in there. A mix of Bus Buddies and cables because I wanted to use Wonky Stuff's micro modules because they're such nice little drums. And you can fit a whole little drum rig in 3 units. So I have the Topograph. Usually I have the Topograph driving these drum units and a mixer. And so I've got a little tiny flexible drum machine in 4 AE Modular rack spaces. What else is in here? This is the original BF Synth Lay Module 01. This is the one that has some problems that have later been fixed, but I like it. I like it even with the issues that it had. Honestly, this is one of my favorite modules. I have the second version of Wonky Stuff's RBSS. I have Tangible Waves Reigns, which is a clone of
Rings
with the Mutable Instruments Rings. I have Kia's Euclid Grid, which is sort of a quad Euclidean sequencer with a bunch of exciting features. And I only have 1 Pikocore in here right now because I gave the other one to Zeno. But effects. And so what I have right here is a little tiny sort of melancholy drone system. So if I want to sit down and do, sad glitchy drones, I can do that in a little tiny module that I can run off of a battery pack
Nice.
and take on planes. I brought this setup as it is from the US, and I'll take it home again when I'm done. Okay, so right now I'm clocking it from Wonky Stuff's RBSS2, beat dividing it with a heartbeat. There are three main things going on right now. One is a very basic kick drum, which is running into here. There's the guitar loop coming out of the Pikocore, and I'm using the sort of stripped down Reigns oscillator, the stripped down drumhead modeling oscillator on the coils. The pitch for that is coming from the Seek 8, which is running at 1 clock speed, which triggers on every CV change, but I'm not using its gate outputs. I'm gating the coils from one of the Euclid grid outputs. What that lets me do is you occasionally get little bends in the tone because the coils will have triggered and it'll be trailing off, and then the CV for the pitch comes in, and so it bends up or down.
Yep.
And so it gives it a nice sort of lively effect rather than just straight pitches.
I like how you use something that I usually find annoying to be a feature of your patch. That is a great use of that.
I've played with that a bunch. It's been one of my favorite things to do, actually, because I like Reigns and I like coils. They're both really, they're beautifully designed, very pretty oscillators, very pretty voices. And you can just have it go straight, or you can modulate them as they go and have these very pretty, lively voices. It adds a little bit of motion to the part. So that's that. The guitar right now is just looping. One of the things you can do with it, let's see if I can get back to the gate. I'm going to add a little bit of delay to it. So this is just the basic lo-fi delay. And then one of the things you can do with it is turn down the gate on each step a little bit. It has its own little filter in it. So this is a fun little module to jam with because it has access to a bunch of ways to do, fairly fun stuff, and it's all synced to tempo. So you can, as I was just doing, turn down the gate, adjust its filter. It's kind of a very lo-fi filter built into it. Adjust how often it jumps and how often it re-triggers steps. So it's got some nice live performance options. Jump to any step, you can just...
Ah, nice.
So it has sort of preset breakbeat settings. In its own feedback pretty easily.
That was a very cool little jam. I like that dark ending. That was really cool.
Yeah, I really love the Pikocore. I had a lot of fun with it.
Well, now that you show it like this, you know, now I want one too. Because I couldn't really work with breakbeats. I don't know what to
Right.
do with breakbeats. But the idea of putting a guitar loop in is just...
Yeah, that's actually the first thing I thought. It was like, oh boy.
Yeah, right.
Vocals came out very strange, but our friend Slowscape had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah.
I accidentally mailed him one, instead of the one with breakbeats, I accidentally mailed him the one with my vocals in it. And so he loaded up and was like, oh, I thought it was going to be beats, and then immediately recorded a track with the busted up vocals on it. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you, Josh, for taking the time and playing for us. And I hope you enjoyed your stay here.
Yeah, I've had a great
Superbooth.
time.
And,
Berlin is the ideal place to be vegan.